Welcome to RPG Community College. Today I wanted to go over Path of Exile's balance manifesto for Conquerors of the Atlas, and kind of just give you my thoughts and opinions on a couple things. I'm not going to be going through and reading the whole thing. I mean, this is a college, not a preschool. You can read it yourself. But I thought maybe some people would be interested in my thoughts and opinions. We can just start here at the top, and we can work our way down. So, bows and other ranged attacks. I think some of the bigger things to take away from this are the Mirage Archer changes. I think they're basically just making it so that Mirage Archer doesn't off-screen anymore, and they're giving it a slight damage reduction, but it's still just mechanically better than most other supports, especially for clear speed, so everyone's still going to be using it. Same thing with Point Blank. Point Blank just gives you more damage. Everybody needs more damage, so everybody is still going to be using Point Blank. I like that they're looking at the balance of unique to rare bows as well. There are some bows, like Chin Soul is probably the biggest offender, that it's a handful of Chaos Orbs, and to compete with a Chin Soul, you have to have a rare bow worth multiple exalts. I think it'd be nicer if it was more like melee weapons, where the cost-effective option would be to actually buy a rare weapon over going for a unique weapon, unless you wanted to, like a more unique way of making a build. I think Doomfletch Prism is kind of like what most unique should be like an item that actually creates a unique way of building a character over just more power, like a Chin Soul or a Lion's Glare. I'm not saying it's bad to have uniques like them, but the game is much more interesting with things like Doomfletch's Prism. And we're now getting crit multi on bows. That's awesome. For minions, I'm probably not the guy to talk to. I've barely ever played any minion builds. But I can tell you that minion movement speed being lowered is a pretty big deal, across the board to all minion builds. And from what I understand, raised zombies were insanely powerful for almost no investment. So them getting the nerf bat is not the end of the world. And for things like this, you really gotta wait for the numbers, because they absolutely still could be just insanely overpowered. There's been multiple times in the past where GGG's tried to nerf things in every way possible, and the skills are just so strong that they still survive the nerf bat. And this is actually true for most skills that get nerfed. In reality, most skills that get nerfed still are, pretty strong. It's just most people don't want to take the time to figure that out themselves. And now for my favorite part of the dev manifesto is the ailment changes. I really, really like this. The fact that chills and shocks are going to be much more accessible and usable by anyone who deals elemental damage is really cool. It's going to give us more interesting ways of building characters and new things to think about when we are creating builds. These are the kind of changes that make Path of Exile a great game, and I really, really like this. And if you want to know basically what's going on here, is you're going to be able, any build that deals elemental damage now is basically going to be able to apply shocks and chills to bosses and all enemies. I mean, doing 0.4% of a target's life is not hard, even on the Shaper. If you can't deal 0.4% of the Shaper's life to him, you probably shouldn't even be in the arena fighting him in the first place. So shocks and chills are going to be much more of a thing now. And they very well could be worth building around, and not just as an elementalist. And here we have monster resistances, armor, and life. I like these changes. It's about time the monsters got buffed. It's not really a massive buff or anything either. If it was taking you 5 seconds to kill a map boss before, it's going to take you 6 seconds now. It's not anything insane or drastic. We have more than enough damage to overcome the small amount that they've raised the hurdle here. I think the biggest change here is that map boss's health is going to scale more linearly now. So it's not just going to be this huge spike in boss health when you get to tier 16s. That's going to be a pretty big change, because there's actually some map bosses in higher tier maps that are actually kind of scary. Doing the Malachi fight in red maps with more boss health, it might take a few people by surprise, let's say. Also, Impale is getting nerfs. I've also never played an Impale build. I heard they were really strong. My condolences to the melee people. But this is another thing you're definitely going to have to wait and see the numbers on, though. And really, if an entire like group of builds, like melee, only depend on one mechanic being insanely overpowered, it's not really good for the game, like in the long run. Like a perfect example of this is the Elementalist. Like they nerfed the Elementalist partially because it was, really strong and like server issues. But because they nerfed the Elementalist, they're able to make changes like to ailments like I just talked about, where now they're good for everyone who does elemental damage, not just an Elementalist. And if you wanted to build around ailments, there are other choices now besides just being an Elementalist. You won't be gimping yourself, But yeah, hopefully Impale isn't completely just trashed here. That would be sad. And we got some leveling changes. I don't really think it's a big deal. For people like speedrunners and things, it's probably a big deal. But I don't think it's gonna affect most people too much. And we got some modifier changes. Nothing really too drastic here. I mean, this is something you kind of got to reserve your judgment for to see the new things that we're getting, because we're getting a lot of new toys to play with all the new endgame content that's coming. So it's like, yeah, here we're losing some things, and these were really strong, and it sucks. But on the other hand, we're also getting a lot of new things that are going to potentially be more powerful. Like I've seen that you can get Tailwind on crit for boots. And that's probably one of the more rare things, but that's still insane. Like, if that's the level of power that we're going to be getting with these new items, I think that these modifiers are not going to be missed very much. Except for the two-handed items. Those are pretty cool. I will miss those. We're also getting multi-modding changes. This is pretty big. Multi-modded items were insanely powerful. I can definitely understand why they want to change it. And for anyone who didn't pick up on this, that can have up to 3 crafted modifiers multi-mod is going to be one of those 3. So you're only going to be able to add 2 crafted modifiers to an item now. It basically just makes getting some GG endgame gear a little harder. And last but not least, we have Icicle Mine, Clear Speed nerfs, Lab Enchant AoE increases. No one's still going to want them. And nerfs to delve shenanigans to stop people, to make deep delving harder. And of course, arc buffs. Arc is my favorite skill. I always love seeing it get buffed. Ain't really much to say about any of this. It is what it is. And that's going to be all for this video. If you would like to continue your education, enrollment is free. All you have to do is like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a thing or two. I wish you the best of luck in all of your endeavors. And I hope to see you again soon.